Hey guys, so in the last video we looked at how we can use these blocks and where to find them, and we looked at how we can style them up and basically create a nice interface. But in this video let's look at how we can actually add some functionality to our app. So having a good UI is great, it will look nice, but it won't actually do anything unless we add some functionality to the app. So to do that, firstly I'm going to do something here in this return statement, which is if we add a new tag here, it will actually throw an error. So I'll just do that now to show you. And you can see that now we have an error here. And that's saying that it must have one parent element. And basically what that means is we can't return these multiple text and buttons and all of that. So to fix this error, what we need to do is we need to wrap everything in one tag, so that inside of this return statement we're only returning one tag and everything else is inside of that one tag. So I'm just going to create empty HTML tags here, no text inside of it, and I'm going to close that tag at the end here. So now everything is within that tag and we're just returning one thing. So I'll get rid of this extra text thing that I added down here. And now let's look at how we can add some functionality to our app. So I'm just going to change this text here, and let me create a variable first. So the way we're going to structure this, and the way you should as well, is we're going to create variables at the top here, and then we're going to create functions below that, and finally we'll have the return statement at the end. So if you're new to coding and you don't know what I've just said, let's just walk through what variables are right now. So we're going to use this keyword let, and we're going to create a variable called x here. So this keyword let is how we create a variable in JavaScript or TypeScript, which is what we're using. And then we give it a name, so we're just naming it x, and we'll set it equal to some text here. So I'm just going to put random letters in here. Okay, so what we did right now is we created a variable called x. You can think of variables as just containers that store stuff. And we're just storing this random string of characters inside of it, and we wrap the characters inside of these parentheses, just because that's how we store strings in programming languages. So if we took out these parentheses here, not parentheses, the quotes here, then it would think that this is either a variable or a function. But we don't want that, we want it to be text. So we need to wrap it in these quotes here. So now we can print out what's inside of this x variable by just using curly brackets down here, and then we put the x inside of it. The reason why we need to use these curly braces is, let's just take this out and just put x there. If we let this compile and we go to our app, we'll see that it's not actually printing out the value of x, it's just printing out the alphabet x. Yeah, so it's just printing out the alphabet x here. So to fix this, we need to wrap it in the curly braces, and if we save this and wait for it to rebuild again, we should see that it now prints out this value. Okay, so now we know how that works, but there is one problem here. So that's with using this let keyword up here, and I'll just show you what that is right now. So it would work if we changed the value inside of x like this. So we're just assigning a new value to x, and now if we go back to the website and wait for it to rebuild first, we should see the new value in here. But if we need to do this dynamically, like for example we had a button down here, And I'm just going to create that right now so you see what it looks like. Let's just go to this button blocks here in the developer docs. And I'm not going to go through this entire page, but you should to learn how buttons work. I'm just going to create one down here and I'll show you how it works while I'm doing it. So we need to create button tags, and then we just need to put some text inside of it, like click me. And this should give us a button on our page. Let's just wait for this to rebuild again. Okay, so now we have this button down here. So let's say we wanted to change the text inside of here when we click the button. So to do that, we need to use this onPress parameter here. And it takes a function in here. So we haven't created any functions yet. Let's look at how we can do that. So we're going to say const here. Const is also a way of creating a variable, but when you use const, you're creating something that can't really be changed. It's static. And that's good for creating functions because we don't really want to change what's inside of that function later on. And we'll just name this function myfunc. And we'll set it equal to. So here I'm going to show you some special syntax. It's called an anonymous function. And this is an easier way of creating functions in here. So to do this, we want to use the normal brackets, just like we did when we were creating our function up here. And then we use the equals to sign and the greater than sign. And then we use our curly braces, just like we did up here as well. So the code that runs inside of our function should be between these curly braces. I know this syntax is a bit weird to understand, but basically just imagine that these brackets here are the same as the brackets in your function, and then these curly braces are the same as the curly braces that wrap all the code in your function. So inside of this, let's just add some code. We'll set x equal to some new text. And on this onPress property here, we want to set that equal to the name of our function, myfunc. And if we save this and wait for it to rebuild, we will actually see that this does not work. And this is a problem with using let or any type of variable inside of React type of app. So let's refresh this. And if we click on this button now, nothing actually happens. So the reason why it does this is because when we're using let here, everything is just being rendered out here. So even though we clicked on this button and it did run this function, so x did in fact change, everything was already rendered out. There was no reason to re-render the page. And we need to actually do that. We need the page to re-render when the value changes. So to achieve this, let's go back to the docs and let's close this interactive posts thing here. And let's see, where could it be? In capabilities. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly where it is here, but there's something called use state, and I'm sure there's a search up here that we can find it in, but I'm just going to show you how it works anyway. So here where we're importing Devvit, we just want to add a comma and then we add use capital S state. And here where we're assigning x, where we're creating it, we want to get rid of that line and we want to do const. So we're creating a constant variable. And we want to use these square brackets here. So there's two values that we want to put into the square bracket. One is x, and the other one is going to be set x. And we could name these two whatever we want. It's just easier to remember if we name one x and one set x. And then we say it's equal to, and now we want to call this useState thing that we just imported. So useState, and now we want to give it a default value. So we're just going to put random alphabets in here just as we originally had. And you'll notice that now everything works correctly except for where we're setting a new value for x inside of the function. And that's why we have these two values inside of the square brackets. So if we hover over it, we'll see that this x is just a string, but the set x is a function. It's a setter. So when we want to reassign the value of x, we need to do it a bit differently. We need to call set x, and we need to pass it the new value that we want to set into x. So some new text. And if we save this, while it's compiling, I'm quickly going to explain how this works. So useState is something called a hook. And a hook is something in React, which is the type of framework that Devvit is built with, which monitors the states of stuff. And when it gets an update, it will actually re-render everything that's on the screen. So we're using this useState hook to monitor the value of x, and whenever x changes using the setX function here, we're going to re-render everything that's being rendered to the screen, which should update the value in here that we're printing out. So let's go see if that works. Okay, so that works, and now we've basically learned in this tutorial how we can create variables and then how to create hooks, and we've also learned how to create functions and how to return multiple blocks. So I think that's good enough for this video. In the next video, let's delve a bit deeper into code so we know how to create the functions and the hooks and variables here. But there's a lot more stuff that we can look at. So I'll see you guys in the next video.